Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I've been working on a Daiwa BG60SC model, and this one's in for a basic tune-up. The owner says he's had it for quite some time now, and this is a first generation reel. This is when they switched over from the Silver series, the 7000Cs and so on. They went over to the BG series, and of course the BG series is still available in multiple iterations since this one was manufactured. But I thought you would enjoy seeing how this reel was made, and while I've done most of the cleanup, I'm just working a little bit on this one axle shaft click ratchet here. That's the that's the one that alerts you the bait is running out. It had just a little bit of grease in there, but I thought I would show you the mechanics behind it, because it is different from the ones that you will find today. This one is a transitional reel, as I mentioned. Most of the reels that Daiwa makes now involve an oscillation system that takes the back end of the main gear, this gear, drives an oscillation gear, which drives the crosswind block to push the axle up and down. The main gear, of course, intersects with the pinion gear and makes the rotor go around. So the up and down motion is controlled by the back of the gear, and the motion to the rotor going round and round is controlled by the front of that gear. Well, that's not the case with this reel. This reel was made with a crosswind arm and the like, and I thought I would take you through how it was made by simply showing you the assembly of the reel after these parts have been cleaned, and as a courtesy to the owner that kind of shows my work, but also this channel is about education. It's about teaching you how reels are made, how they come together, how to service them, how to keep them running for a long time. If they're broken, how to give them a second chance. So I thought maybe we would kind of pick this one up midstream, if you will. You didn't need to see me take it apart. If you need to take your reel apart, well, just follow these steps in reverse, and that'll get you there. And if you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting. I post frequently, and you can determine whether that's a video you want to see or not. Well, there's just a little bit of cleanup left. Most of this cleanup has been done with just simply using a penetrating oil as a degreaser, and some soft cleanup, things like cotton swabs and paper towels, and we have basically have a nice clean unit here that's about to be reinstalled. So imagine you're in a plant somewhere putting this together. That's kind of what this video is going to look like. You're going to pick up the various assemblies, put them in place, and make sure that it's all working. When you go to reassemble your reel after you've cleaned it, just check the teeth. Make sure that the orientation of all of the teeth are in good stead, that they're all kind of uniform there, that those teeth are not bent, chipped, cracked, or otherwise going to degrade the performance of the reel. Just talking to an individual who says he's got a big grind in his reel. What could be causing that? And then he told me he was in a fight with a fish that was probably outside that reel's capability, and the grind happened after that. So chances are probably the fight, the torque and the tension on that probably outstripped the strength of the gears. That happens. All right, there's a large gear that goes on the pinion shaft. This is a 3-ball bearing reel. The large gear is going to sit in the cavity of the housing, and the bottom of that gear is going to go into the little holder here. When you put that piece in, make sure that the collar on this is flush with the housing. If it's not flush, take your time, back it off, and get it corrected. Now, one of the things I always advise when you're taking reels apart is to check for pieces and parts. For example, on this one, there's a little bump out here. So you need to pay attention to where that bump out is when it's time to reinstall. Otherwise, it could interfere with the performance. This is the tie-down piece for the main bearing and the pinion gear. It's going to hold it from coming out. Well, I noticed when I took the reel apart that the little bump out belongs over here. And now I'm going to use a little tie down. Well, I'm going to try to use a tie down, but it's a Phillips head screw that I took off. So we're going to replace these one by one. And once you get the first one in, it gets a little bit easier to put the others back in place. So that's the first one, and I don't like to tighten them down all the way because you still have to align the holes for the other two. And you'll see that it can catch like that if you don't pay attention. I'm doing so much for the camera that I kind of lost my concentration in terms of what I was trying to do otherwise. So it's important to put the tie downs in. It's important that you notice all of your pieces and parts and their relative orientation, and it's a good thing to organize the way you take your pieces and parts off the reel so that you know what you're looking for when you're looking for them. And I use a parts tray a lot. There's a lot of different schemes in terms of how you can go about organizing it. Some folks, particularly folks in the military, I guess that's one of the things that they teach there, is take the parts off and place them in the order that they were removed, so that when you reverse the install, you just kind of come back down the line. I don't use that method. Some folks do. Some folks like to lay them out on towels, do some other things. Whatever works for you. I'm not going to tell you there's a right or a wrong way. I'm just going to tell you that I recommend that you have a way, and that you decide on that way before you take a reel apart. That way you're not panicking when all of a sudden you realize, like me, I got parts kind of all over the desk. Well, those parts over the desk here were because I was getting ready to install, and then I thought maybe this video would be helpful. There's a collar piece here. There's a narrow side and a wide side. The narrow side goes down and rests on the bearing. You can see how it fits in that carrier there. And then we have the anti-reverse on this one. This is a single stop. That's probably what the SC is about. It's a single stop on the anti-reverse. It's only going to set in one direction. It takes a while to set it. People have told me that they have gone to the traditional BG and replaced this with the one that has a more tempered stop to it. Alright, well, you want to get that over the pinion gear, and then you're going to find that there is a slot in the anti-reverse gear, and you need to put your leg of your arm into that slot there. And what's going to happen is this will go turning, and it's an eccentric spring. When it's time to stop and reverse, it's going to pull that dog in, and this is the stop point for your dog. Anywhere else along the way, when you go to pull it in, you'll notice it'll go there, but it won't stop until it gets to that hook on the back end. So a lot of folks find that as an annoyance. Well, that's the way that the reel was made. That's a feature that you typically will find on one of these fast cast reels, where you always want that cast to return to a particular place. Alright, we can put the rotor back on next. And again, these have all been cleaned. And in the case of the rotor, I went ahead and I put some oil onto the two slots here so that the bail trips nicely. This one comes... You need to thread these by hand. You don't want to over tighten them. And then I used a ratchet when I removed it. I'm going to use a ratchet to tighten it. Once you've tightened it down, give it a spin. It spins nicely. And check when you come back. Now this is the whole idea behind that single stop. That bail is always going to come back to your casting position when you stop the reel. So if you needed to throw it, it would come to your casting position. Now it should. And it'll trip over as well. Okay, let's continue with this. We have two bearings that are the same. Again, they've been cleaned and oiled. I'm going to put the bearing into the back case. We have a crosswind block and a crosswind arm that's going to attach here. So we can take our main gear and we can place that into the bearing and mesh that with the pinion gear. Then we can insert this crosswind block. You want to put a little bit of grease onto the back end of it. I already put some in the channel. Put some into the back end here, which is going to ride in that channel. Insert the crosswind gear into the slot and block. Bring the axle shaft down now, like coating of grease. Just go ahead and put that in. The flat side of that axle shaft faces out. You want to merge that in, and then you want to align the hole in that crosswind block with the hole in the axle shaft. And then we can go ahead and put that in. That's a Phillips head screwdriver requirement. And you can see a relatively simple design. Well, it's not to be critical of them. Simple designs don't break, or they break less frequently. A little bit of grease onto your crosswind arm. Backside, that's when it's going to ride. And a little bit into the ring there. Align the arm and the pin on the crosswind block. And there's a little washer. I thought I had it off. I guess I didn't. There's a little washer on here. You need to remove that washer first. And now that washer is going to go over it before the bearing, so that it's going to hold that in place. And then your bearing will go on. Again, these have been oiled already. And this is how your crosswind block is going to move your axle shaft up and down. When you turn your main gear, the arm is going to swing, as you can see. That's going to move that axle shaft up and down. It's on a offset to the main gear. Well, all we have to do now is close this reel up. Make sure when you put the side case on that all of your side seams fit nice and tight and without a struggle. If you're struggling to close the case, something is out of alignment. If something comes out of alignment, chances are you've got some tension in the case, or you have a part installed incorrectly that needs to be addressed. Well, that's how the reel kind of comes together. We'll show you the spool, what that's made out of. Put the handle on, and we'll show you how nice and smooth this is based on the design and why the BG60 continues to be, well, what I'll call a fan favorite. It's not overly engineered. It's got 3 ball bearings. It's got that crosswind arm as opposed to the oscillation gear. Some will say that that causes it to be a little bit less smooth. And, well, a lot of that is opinion. Some of it, I guess, can be shown. All right, the spools are held on by a 5-sided clip. Rides in a ridge. I'm going to remove the drag washers here, and I think these are going to be felt drag washers. I'm not quite sure. What I am sure of is that there's a lot of dirt and grease inside that cavity, so we want to clean that out. And again, I'm going to use the paper towel. I'm going to opt for the softest approach that I can, least abrasive approach. So most of the time I'll be doing my cleaning with the penetrating oils, paper towels, cotton swabs, and then if it gets particularly stubborn, or if there's some corrosion, or there's some other things on there that require a little bit more, I'll go to a kitchen scrubby, or I'll go to a 4R, which is a polishing steel wool. But I never go beyond that. I don't use grinders or things like that to get that off. All right, there's just a little bit of dirt in the channels, and you might wonder, how does the dirt get in there? Well, it gets in there because when you're using a top drag system like this, the line's wrapping around the outside coming off of the rod, and it's carrying water, and the water goes into the bowl here, and the bowl drains right down into that drag system. Alright, well, we have a series of washers here. The first one, this is a non-functional drag stock. I can see because I've had to peel that one off. These are all kind of stuck together. But the first one is a leather drag washer, followed by a Teflon washer. And there should be one more here, another Teflon washer. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to clean the dirt off of those so that they don't stick. Again, I'll use that paper towel for these to wipe those clean. And then we get some dirt on these. Again, you can generally wipe this stuff off, but that dirt or dried greases and the like, in this case I think it's just plain dirt, well, that's going to interfere with the performance of your drag system. I have 2 reels that just came into me today. Both of them, the fellow said the drags aren't working. And I asked him, well, what have you done to service them? He said, I haven't done anything. I asked him, what has he done to service the reel? He said, nothing in 10 years. Well, you saw what happens here when the dirt accumulates. And I'm sure in his case what's happened is the dirt accumulated, wasn't addressed, and tore up the drag washers. They were felt drag washers, and tore them up instead of doing it the right way. This is a leather washer. You can put grease on that. Put a little bit of grease on there, rub it in. It's porous, so you want to keep it from tearing, and grease is a good way to do that. I'm going to take that washer and put that in the bottom. That's where it comes from. We have a washer that follows that. It's called a keyed washer. It has a rectangular center and smooth circular outside. The first of the Teflon washers goes in, and then our pointed washer or eared washer goes in. Then the second of the Teflon goes in, and the last is the second keyed washer, followed by that ring. So set the ring in, put it on one side, hold it. It's a spring, it can shoot. And make sure that that spring gets into the cavity there. And there's just one little piece of wear over here. I think that's corrosion. I don't think that's going to go away. It's not, so we're just going to leave it at that. Okay, so that's a look at what the Daiwa BG60SC is as a reel. And now all we have to do is kind of tighten this down, put the handle on, give it a test, show you how nice a reel this is and why it's kind of a fan favorite. You want to tighten the drag down all the way, make sure that it's holding after you serviced it, then back it off so that it doesn't compress the drags when you're not fishing. And that should be done after every trip. The handle goes on, just turning it the way that you're going to crank the reel. And now we'll give it a test. So that's a nice, smooth, easily operating reel. And just give it a flip there. And remember, when you backstop, it's going to come over here to the casting mode. So that's a function. Again, if you have one of those fast cast or easy cast reels, it's always going to bring it back here, because when you go to trip your bail, it's going to sit here and flip it. In this case, this is not a fast cast reel, but it is a beauty. And this one's ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of an inside look into the Daiwa BG60, the SC version. The only difference between that and the other one is that anti-reverse. And well, it's a survivor. It's a reel that's been around a long time. It's one that everybody appreciates. And this one's ready to go fishing again. So, to our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe. Your efforts are appreciated. Thank you for your career's work and dedication. And to everybody, please keep your reels, tackle all maintained well. It should be done once a year at a minimum. And keep those reels ready to go fishing, because, well, you never know when the bite's going to be on, and you don't want to miss it. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.